of years ago, the mainstream media was plummeting when it came to ratings, and YouTube was actually growing when it came to political content and viewership. And it kind of makes sense in a business where there is competition that the competition don't just want to die out. So the mainstream media started slandering and attacking YouTube with various accusations. One of the accusations was that YouTube is radicalizing people to the right. I remember the New York Times made a very interesting article that if you look at the title, it sounds horrible. But when you actually read the article, it talks about a guy who just started watching YouTube, then became a basic bitch conservative by watching Steven Crowder. He actually says that he doesn't believe in far-right views, like he's not an ethno-nationalist or anything. He just like has a conservative girlfriend and watches Steven Crowder. And he realized one day that this way of thinking is really wrong, and eventually he started watching BreadTube. And apparently like this shows that YouTube is a far-right radicalization machine. The biggest joke that started was The Guardian releasing a research which seemed to be sponsored by a lot of interesting corporations. And this research showed that YouTube is indeed a radicalization machine. The research shows guilt by association, and it's being published in a time where debates between the political commentary on YouTube was a thing. And the idea was that if you watch someone like Tim Pool and you become a subscriber of Tim Pool, eventually you're going to watch a debate between Tim Pool and Sargon. And now you are hooked to watching Sargon as well, simply because you have been exposed to that debate. Well, now Sargon is going on the Worski and is debating against Spencer. And now you're hooked to Spencer because, you know, you saw from Tim Pool to Sargon to Worski to Spencer. And it was like this really weird, bizarre, interconnected web of conspiracy, which the mainstream media was proposing it as fact. Even though when you looked at it, the far-right channels, the white nationalists on YouTube, didn't really have that many subscribers, didn't even have that many views. But like the mainstream media was pushing this agenda in order to get the advertisers to be spooked off of YouTube. Which they did, and then the mainstream media managed to get favorable treatment on the platform once Google decided to promote authoritative sources. And the moment they started promoting authoritative sources, all of this scandal went away. No more radical conspiracy, no more, you know, YouTube is pushing people to that, none of that. All of a sudden, all is good. And you notice that the mainstream media ratings are starting to grow if you also add the viewership that they get on this platform. Very interesting, right? But there was another website which tried to go against what Becca Lewis has said. This research is done by a website called Transparency Tube, and they wanted to show that, well, it's not true. YouTube is not a far-right radicalization hole, but it's more complex than that. You see, it's not just like there's the far-right and then there's everyone else. Various channels can be branded differently. Some channels can be libertarian, other channels can be right-wing. Some channels can be left, and other channels can be actual communists. And it's this website that is freaking out a lot of people now, because the study is done also by human reviewers on one hand, but is also done by algorithm, and certain channels that, you know, just review videos or review video games or movies, they're now labeled as right-wing. For example, that Star Wars girl is labeled as right-wing. It's a Gundam is labeled as right-wing. Basically, like, if you don't like the Star Wars sequels, then you're clearly a right-wing bigot. The reason a lot of people are upset about this is because they view that being labeled right on YouTube means that you now have a target on your back. Whether it is algorithmic suppression, like it happened to PewDiePie, or you can get flat out demonetized, like it happened to Crowder, or you can simply just be kicked off of the platform. I do believe that these concerns have some legitimacy to them. People do not feel comfortable as being labeled to the right. And it's really bizarre if you think about it. Like, I myself, in Romania, am considered to be a left-leaning person. Why? Because, well, I'm an atheist. I'm for gay marriage. I think that women have a right to choose. When it comes to environmental issues, I want clean oceans and I want clean air. But basically, on all of these issues, I would be considered left-leaning. And even in America, in the United States, if I were to go back in a time machine 10 years ago, I would be an incredibly progressive dude. The problem is that even though I believe all of the issues that I mentioned before and haven't changed my mind, right now that's not enough in order for people to be considered left-leaning. You need to now be against free speech. You need to have the belief that words are violence and that just because someone is speaking something doesn't mean that consequences shouldn't happen to them. So if you're for free speech and human rights, well, now you're a right-wing bigot. If I don't believe that taxation is a good thing and we should have like 65% taxes plus indirect tax, well, then I just want people to die. You know, like all of this nonsense, if I look at Netflix and I don't like the fact that kids in drag is a good thing, and I think like drag inherently is a sexual activity and children should not be there just like they shouldn't be in a strip club, well, now I'm a right-wing bigot. And the really hilarious thing is that if you look at someone like Bernie Sanders 20 years ago, and you compare what he was proposing then with what Donald Trump is proposing now, there is a huge overlap. Okay, like both of them are saying that they care about the LGBT community. Both of them want to withdraw from the Middle East. You know, like you can just put point after point after point, and you'll see like Bernie Sanders used to be against open borders. He is on record saying that that is a right-wing idea to open the borders that favors big industries. That's a Goldman Sachs proposal, right? It's fascinating how things have just changed, even though like you're still on the same position of the political spectrum. All of a sudden you find yourself to the right because everything has moved to the left. And it's not like if you believe 99.9% of the things leftists believe, you can be still considered a leftist, because look at J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling is a very progressive woman. She believes in open borders, she believes in cancel culture, she believes in a lot of things that many people on the left believe. However, she had the misfortune in assuming that it's still okay for people to express their mind on subjects, and said that in her opinion she doesn't believe that men can have uteruses, and she was crucified for it. She literally died for your sins now. There is an army of people sending her vile threats, the disgusting misogynistic messages on the Twitter because she voiced her opinion. There is an army of people going after her friends and people that are close to her just because she exposed that opinion. It's bizarre. And this is how it functions. You express a single right-wing opinion, you're a right-winger. It seems that politics always moves to the right in a way. Like take Tim Pool, you know, Mini Beanie. He's got this show on YouTube and he invites the leader of the Proud Boys. Everyone starts calling him a Nazi. Everyone accuses him of being far right. He invites then Vosh, a socialist, right? A far left Antifa person on his show. No one accuses now Tim Pool of being a socialist sympathizer. No one accuses Tim Pool of cozying up to the far left. It's only when you associate yourself, even in a contradictory fashion, even in a debate, with a person that's more to the right than you, that people are going to say, okay, well, that person, literally all his opinions are now going to be transcended to the moderator, because it's guilt by association, I suppose. You know, so by this logic, Joe Biden is now far right because he debated against Donald Trump. All of the Democratic supporters, if we are to assume that this is the case, have been exposed to the bigoted views that Donald Trump is having. But they're not doing this because this is a tactic. It's got absolutely nothing to do with consistency. It's got absolutely nothing to do with logic. It's just a tactic that they use. And they probably know that most people don't believe in it, but whatever. You know, it is what it is. And because it is what it is, I understand why a lot of YouTubers do not like being called right. Because they view it as a target painted on them. Last year, YouTube decided to have a December to Remember. A little bit of a Kristallnacht here on the platform, where a lot of people, out of the blue, with no warning whatsoever, got demonetized. And we're talking about dozens upon dozens of channels. Instead of people celebrating Christmas, it's like, congratulations, you're fired. That's how pretty much the news came. And people are worried that it's going to repeat this year again. And it's possible, you know. How will they decide which channels are problematic and which ones aren't? We don't know. You know, I guess we're going to find out. But I definitely understand why a lot of YouTubers do not like the label of right. And that's why they didn't like when Transparency Tube, which again is an interesting website that came in order to fight Becca Lewis's conspiracy theory with the red web and the dots connecting and that. So yeah, this is what I think. Let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll see you guys there. Take care.